All right, so recording started. Sweet, we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We're a little bit delayed this month because things have been so busy. We had to push it back a week. But we have some good questions again. Hopefully, you guys can win some cool prizes. We'll find out. It's draft day, so I got my Broncos hat on. Hopefully, the pit of misery that is the Broncos ends this week. I know Logan's super excited about sports, so I had to bring that up. You live in Texas, so you should be like a football like aficionado.
I definitely know all the sports things for sure.
Which team is Taylor Swift on?
The Kansas City Chiefs, obviously.
You're good then. You're set. That's funny. All right, let me pull up my question list here and we shall get started. Okay, question number 1 from Jake. What's the deal with cloud backups? Are they really safer than old school methods? Well, it depends on what your old school method is. I've talked to a couple of clinics just in the last 2 weeks that are still using tape. So if you're using tape, way better than tape. I think tape has like an 80% recovery rate. Also depends on the type of cloud backups you're using. If you're using like the default like Cornerstone ones, it's somewhat good because at least the hard thing with the Cornerstone cloud ones is because like the file gets locked until it's like the database file is locked, so it can't copy it until you're done. Like you close all your computers and then it can copy that file up. So that creates some issues there. So you could potentially like have a computer running at night, could be trying to back up, but it's not actually backing up. But if you're using hard drives, I would say it's better than the hard drive method. I don't know, thoughts?
Yeah, it's really going to come down to what you're backing up. So typically what we see at a lot of hospitals is that they're backing up just their practice management system database to an external hard drive that is never unplugged from the computer and often never checked. So if you think about it from that method, let's say there was a physical disaster at your clinic. If your only backup is going to an external hard drive that stays connected to your server, you might as well have not had a backup at that point because that device will also be destroyed. Also, if you're only backing up to one hard drive, not doing a swap, if your server was compromised, they have full access to that backup hard drive as well. So there's nothing stopping, someone from encrypting your backups as well as your entire server. So
And
if
that's a
you
good
are,
point because they will. Well, that's actually a really valid point because generally, like if you get hit with ransomware, they're on the network anywhere from like what 7 to 10 days before they hit it because they're looking for your backup. So they're going to look for that hard drive and they're going to wipe it and then they're going to hit you. So then, yeah.
yeah, so if you are doing external hard drive backups, the actual recommendation there is that you're doing a hard drive swap. So you have multiple hard drives and that one of those is leaving the clinic every day. So let's say on Monday you back up to one hard drive, Monday night you take that hard drive home and another one. Obviously that becomes very tedious. Most clinics are not going to stick to that regimen. So in that case, yes, a cloud backup is going to be your better option. Um, Obviously, a cloud backup does require stable internet connection and all of that. So typically at Luca, we like to deploy both a separate local backup that then offsites to a cloud backup as well. So we've got protections across the board.
Yeah. Good. All right. All right, Jake. Let's see if you win like the person did last week, and you just freaking win the iPad straight out the gate. Du-du-du-du. And oh, emergency surgery for Jake.
The reason
Emergency
most people are late to our
surgery.
calls.
Yes, exactly. Why everybody's generally late to a meeting because an emergency surgery. All right. That's good. Okay, Zoe, time for new computers. What specs do we need for our practice to run smoothly? So generally, when we source computers from any of the major vendors, generally it's like Intel Core i5 or better, i7 if you can get it. If your cloud-based practice management system, 16 gigs of RAM minimum because Google Chrome just eats up a lot of RAM. You probably don't need much hard drive space. You shouldn't need any, so you could get like the minimum, which would be like 256 gigs. You want solid state drives, which is SSDs, what that stands for. It just makes the computer reboot a lot faster. I don't know.
And
That's
then
good. Anything else?
Windows Pro devices. So if you're shopping online at Best Buy, you don't want to be buying home class devices. those devices are not meant to work 40-hour work weeks. And so they will
Yeah, great
typically
point.
die a lot faster. So if you're purchasing a computer, look for Windows 10 or Windows 11 Pro. That will typically be an indicator that it's built for business class.
That's a great tip. I never knew that. Like I always say, look for the business class version, but I never thought because like, yeah, the pro version is meant to be tied to a domain, and you're not gonna have a domain at home. That is a good one. I even learned something today. Well, what do you know? All right, so let's see if you win anything today. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, you win puppy appointment. That's my favorite. That'd be my favorite kind of appointment. The puppy appointment. All right. Okay, Leah says, any tricks to prevent our label printers from eating excess labels all the time? This one's for you for sure.
Oh, labels are my life's discontent. So it comes down to a few things. One, making sure people are installing the labels properly. You have no idea how often that is happening. So if your label printer is spitting out a bunch of labels, take a step back, take the labels out, push the guards back, put the labels back in, reset of everything. And whether you're using Dymo or Zebra, they both have a feed button on the front. If you click that feed button and it feeds out one label, that means that it's reading the labels correctly. If then you go to a computer and you print labels and it spits out a bunch of labels, that means your actual label settings are wrong. Um, and also keep in mind that if you change label sizes, the label setting sizes have to be changed on your computers. It's not going to automatically pick that up. It says it will, it won't. So you do have to change that, but those are typically the main steps is determining if it's a computer setting or an actual label printer issue.
That's good. See, I would have said, I don't know. I should know this because this is like our number one problem, actually.
Yes.
Printing, printing, printing. All right, Leah, let's see. Do you win, Leah? Dun, dun, dun.
Looking for that iPad.
Yeah, looking for that
Because poor
iPad.
Leah has had to deal with label printers.
Oh, almost coffee.
So
Frozen
close.
PC during checkout. Time to reboot
Ugh.
and wait. You're the real winner. All right.
I don't know what's worse, frozen PC or label printer.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Ben says, which cloud practice management systems are the easiest for tech newbies?
Oh,
Ooh, that is a good one. Probably ideally simple workflow, right? One page workflow. Is Shepherd
and
one page workflow?
not in my opinion. Uh,
Okay.
so a lot of this, in my opinion, also comes down to your clinic workflow and your preferred workflow and who's doing what and where they're doing it at. Like, are you doing exam room notes or, post notes? I think it really comes down to clinic preferences with what clinics consider easy, because we've had some clinics who will say, absolutely not, we demoed that one, way too complicated. And then another clinic the next week will come back and be like, that was the easiest option by far. And so I really think it comes down to what you're used to. If you're going from Cornerstone, you're used to 7,000 pages. So you might consider that transition a lot easier versus I feel like clinics who are moving from Avamark are actually the ones that struggle the most because
Yeah.
while Avamark is the most dated, it is technically
The
the most
easy.
simple.
Yeah, that's a great point. I would say stay away from EasyVet, right? And that's like the imprimat of cloud-based systems. So it's like a million clicks for everything and a million features. And so if you're new to technology, you probably don't want a million features. I mean, generally speaking, I would like the ones that we just like from a business standpoint are gonna be like Digital, Shepherd. Although I have questions about Shepherd. There's been a lot of shakeup at Shepherd recently, just over the last couple weeks. And like kind of like the founders are gone. And then the other key players that were there that I think really driving the product are now gone. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. It was a pretty popular product. I just learned about a new one, Vet Badger, which is owned by a actually owned by a doctor and her husband who's like a developer. And it's still small. And they're trying to do everything in-house. So with Vet Badger, you can they do phones and everything. So sometimes if it's one umbrella, it's probably easier. You could also check out Vetspire. I've also heard rumblings that he has like a contract with him and it may be coming to a close. It's a rumor. Sam hasn't told me that directly, so it'll be interesting to see what happens at Vetspire if he stays there, or if that one kind of goes more of the corporate route. With Digitail and Vet Badger, though, if you are a Luca customer, you can get 20% off for the first year, which is nice. So maybe look at those.
Also, when you're demoing, have them show you how printing works. That's the thing a lot of clinics don't look at and then complain about later because EasyVet with its multi-clicks does technically have one of the easiest print setups.
That's true.
You are not going to see a typical print setup like you have in your server-based practice management systems when you're using cloud-based practice management systems. So if printing is already a headache for you, I'd recommend having them demo and show you how printing actually works in their systems.
Yeah, great. All right. All right, Ben. See if you're a big winner today. Is it Ben Spinks? There's no last name. Ben's very tech savvy, so I wouldn't say it's him. Oh, look. Uh-oh. Anal gland expression. It's the worst. Anytime I'm in a hospital and this is going on in the tech state, like that back in the tech area, I do not know how you guys handle it. Like it is the worst smell on the planet. Like it is so awful. So you don't win that. Technically, you're a loser, Ben, because that is not winning. All right, Sarah says, how often should we actually be replacing our PCs? We don't want to break the bank. Okay, my general thought is, and then I'll let Logan fill in, is where are your most crucial computers? So like, are you reception-based checkout, exam-based checkout? Like what PCs can you not live without? So like if it died and you cannot live without that PC for 2 weeks, is that okay? So like reception, if that's where all your money's coming in, you probably want to replace those every 5 years and not necessarily just replace them, but if they're still running fine, like roll them back to the comfort station that's like 12 years old and barely works. And you use that room as like a spare exam room when you're busy and you need like a computer in there, or roll it back to tech station or pharmacy or whatever. It's generally my thought process. Otherwise, run them until they die, I feel like, or run them until you can't update them anymore. Like you don't want to create a security risk. So like if we can't update them anymore, then it's probably time to replace them. A lot of times you can do in-place upgrades, like you can upgrade from Windows 10 to a Windows 11 if the hardware will support it, and then you can keep updating it as long as it's running okay. Also, don't fall into the MSP computer resell trap. I was just talking with a hospital the other day up in Montana, and they had their IT company come in and quote them, and they were trying to sell them 4 PCs at like $1,500 for each PC, and then they were going to charge them like another $700 or $800 of labor to set them up. And I think they're an Avamart hospital, so it wasn't like it's not terribly hard to set up an Avamart computer. Like you just copy a shortcut basically, and when we went directly to Dell, Dell actually had this exact same computer on sale, like the exact same computer, exact mirror specs for $650 per computer. So that's like basically $900 in savings per computer. And then, at 4 hours to set a computer up, I don't know. And if they're charging you $200 an hour, like I think that's just overkill. Like it's way too expensive. So don't fall into that trap. That's my soapbox. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, same thing. And just keeping in mind that technology definitely has effect on clinic morale. So if you have a slow computer, replace it. It's not worth the time and the headache that your techs and your receptionist are going to have to put into dealing with it. And like Clint said, you can go on Dell.com, you can order business class computers with the specs that we talked about earlier in this call. And for around that 600 range, we're typically seeing them around that 630 range right now. And so replace the computer if it's causing you a headache.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will also say this came like we got the computers with like this quote was with the Dell Pro support, which basically means like if there's something wrong with it for the first 3 years, like you just put it, you go to Dell's website, like you just talk to their support. They'll overnight you a box if they don't have somebody locally. You drop the computer in a box with a prepaid label on it. You slap it on, it overnights it to them. They fix it, and then they overnight it back to you. So I think like when we did Dr. Space's laptop, because I think she like spilt something on the keyboard, she had her laptop back in like 72 hours. And it was no extra cost. Like they did it all included. And I think the pro support's like 150 or $200 for the 3 years. So it's totally worth it, especially if you're managing your own IT. It just like makes things, it kind of gives you a like really good hardware support. Also, don't buy your hardware from IDEX. Like I know IDEX has great support, but they sell you crap hardware. Like don't
They
buy it.
did
Like
recently update from white boxes, so they are selling Dells now.
okay,
I
well
will say
that's a
that it
benefit.
has
Yeah.
slightly progressed.
Yeah, they're getting
I don't
better,
hate it
but
quite as much anymore.
yeah, exactly. Okay. They're making progress, but still don't
Yeah,
buy your computers from IDEX. Yeah. Although the X-ray PCs, if you're going to buy one of
you
those,
have to.
you have to, which sucks because they sell you like a $3,000 computer that's probably worth 500 bucks. They have some unique like card in there so I can talk to the X-ray device. Okay, Sarah, let's see if you are a winner. Bum, ba-dum, bum. Oh, Sarah wins a free Starbucks. All right, Sarah, we are going to send you a Starbucks gift card. I have your email address. I'll shoot you an email. Be on the lookout for an email from me. Let me know where to send you that Starbucks. Hopefully, you can buy enough coffee for you and your staff one day. Thank you for submitting a question, and thank you for participating. All right. Finn, how can we fix slow printing issues? Here's another one. How can we fix slow printing issues without calling tech support every other day? And we're still on Cornerstone.
So a lot of this depends on what you mean by slow. So some printers are just naturally slower than others, particularly Lexmark. If it's a Lexmark printer, go ahead and get rid of it. Save yourself some headache. Um, they are just slower. The rest of it comes down to how your printers are configured, unfortunately. So it's a lot more in-depth conversation. Typically, we can improve printer speeds by making sure the printers stay updated and are using an IP address instead of the built-in. Typically, when you set up a computer and you put it on the network and you go into your ad printers and it pops up with a printer name, it's using what's called a WSD connection. That connection is typically a little bit slower. If your printers are being steered off a server, you might have a delay there. So a lot of it comes down to that configuration, unfortunately, unless it's just the case of a very slow printer, which in my opinion, Lexmark are the slowest on the market.
What was that issue you fixed for that hospital like over this last week? They were having all the printer problems. It wasn't like a default printer setting in Cornerstone, but that was
Yeah.
crashing Cornerstone.
Yeah, so if you have printers that are crashing Cornerstone, check your Cornerstone default printer settings within the application. Uh, you would think Cornerstone could be smarter and just use your default printer. It won't. So if you're having Cornerstone crashing issues while trying to pull up like correspondence or other things like that, check those settings within Cornerstone itself, and that can help as well.
Sweet. All right, Finn, see if you're a big winner for having printing problems.
I think at this point we should just host an entire conference about vet clinics and printing.
Almost another coffee, but I was like, this wheel, like it's just like last week we were just freaking, we were just giving iPads
Everyone
away.
got the
Like now we're
iPads.
just gonna be giving Starbucks gift cards away. Frozen PC during checkout. So sorry, you don't actually win. And it's kind of a losing deal. All right. Ruby says, we are using a PC as our server for Avamark. We had an IT company come out and quoted us around $20,000 for a new server. Do we really need a server? That's a tough question. My initial thought is do you love Avamark? Do you plan on staying on Avamark? If you don't love Avamark and you're thinking about getting off of it, then no. I would go cloud-based. Like I would find a cloud-based system and I would simplify your IT and I'd get away from it. Let's say you love Avamark and you want to stay on Avamark, and it probably is worth it to invest in like an actual server, depending on how big your hospital is. Like you probably get performance increases, like you make the printing better.
Yeah, and Avamark technically has a limit. I believe it's 10 to 15 is the amount of computers you're allowed to connect to Avamark running off of a computer. So there
Okay.
is a growth limit there
Just
as
like
well.
IDEX, right? Like IDEX does the same
Mhm.
thing, but you can only have like 12 computers connected or
Yep.
something if it's a PC. So they must be smaller. So that means you don't need like the world's like fanciest server. Is it going to be $20,000? Probably. Again, you're probably like the MSP is, or the managed service provider or IT company is, my thought is likely reselling you that computer. We got a quote from, we saw a quote from another IT provider where one of the like hospital or one of the owners wanted a nicer laptop. They sold that her, like, it was a fancy laptop, don't get me wrong, but they sold it to her for I think it was like $5,500 all said and done. When I went directly to Dell's website and I just built the exact same thing, it was $3,000. So like she ended up paying $2,000 more than she actually needed to because of the markup from the IT company. And don't get me wrong, like we're an IT company, like we want to, like we need to make money too. Like we got to keep the lights on, but I mean that just seems a little bit like ridiculous. Like if,
Yeah.
$2,000, like there's $100 difference, maybe, plus they're charging you all the labor to set it up. So here, not only do you have probably the markup cost plus the labor, which I'm assuming the average labor rate's like around $200 an hour for most IT companies. So depending on how much labor they're charging you, my guess is like if you were to buy just a decent server from Dell directly for the size of your hospital, you're probably in the $8,000 to $9,000 range. So is it like $10,000 in labor? I mean, what would that be? I mean, 10,000 divided by two is what, 5? So, I mean, I don't know if it's 50 hours worth of labor. I mean, especially for a hospital. So, I don't think you need to spend that much, but you probably do need to keep server if you want to keep Avmark.
I do want to keep in mind here that we also don't have the full scope of what they're building out for you. So if you
True.
are asking them to build out um, like an Avamart database host server, and then you also ask for a remote access option, they may actually be building you out to virtual servers. So that could be playing a role in here. Not to play devil's advocate, but
No, it's a valid point.
there
Yeah.
could be other things, but here, look, we're a big proponent of making sure you understand one, what you're paying for and why you're paying for it. So if you feel like you received that quote and you don't understand the cost, take it back to them, make sure it's all broken down, make sure you understand what exactly you're paying for, how many hours of labor you're paying for, all of that to ensure that you're getting the best deal on what you need.
Yeah, I agree. Good point. Yeah, they could be building on other stuff. So that's a great point. We don't know exactly what they're doing. That is a great caveat. All right, Ruby, let's see if you're a winner. We're spending $20,000 on a server.
I hope she gets Starbucks.
Yeah. Coffee is life. I would say yes.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement there. All right. We've got about 7 minutes left, so we're not going to get through all the questions today. So again, if you want to get your question early in line, it's best to submit them right away. We'll post a new link to next month's webinar here after this one's done. So make sure you don't necessarily have to show up, but if you just register and get your question submitted, it'll get it to the top of the line. Then we can make sure we can answer it because I think we're probably going to we're going to miss quite a few of these questions. So if you want to get in there for next month, be sure to register early because it gets you to the top of the list. Or you could join live because not a lot of people join live. So if you want to join live, then you can ask questions live, and we're probably more likely to answer your question and skip ahead other people who register early. So that's a pro tip. You join
And you
live,
can
we'll
give
probably
us
get to.
all the extra information we need to fully answer
Yes,
your question.
exactly. Yeah. Like joining live, that's right. Like with Ruby, if you join live, we could ask you some more questions. Okay, Sam says, what should I look out for when upgrading our practices computers? I think we were kind of already answered this one twice, I think, so I'm not sure we really need to answer it. Anything we should add to what we've already talked about on computers?
No, I think, yeah, just make sure you are keeping them up to date and with their updates as well. That will help them run a lot faster.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, I guess like upgrading your computers, like that's a good question. My assumption when you say upgrading is like buying new ones, like getting better ones, but you could be talking about just like trying to upgrade them to make them run better. So,
If you have Dell computers, they come installed with Dell Support Assist, or I think some of it, some newer devices it's called Dell Command Update. But run that. It will update all the hardware settings that also get missed in a lot of the standard updates. Typically, it can make your computers run a little bit better.
yes, I also use that thing on my own personal Dell laptop. So yeah, pro tip. Okay, and that was Sam. All right, Sam. Dun, 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 dun. Another emergency surgery, almost a kitty appointment. Although I don't know, like maybe emergency surgery is like a win for a doctor because it's like you're saving a life and it's like a rush. Like I would think if I had that skill set, like you'd be like, heck yeah, let me get in there and see if I can do that thing. So that actually might be a win.
Depends on how much you like surgery.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. If you're like Dr. Rafage, like you love it, then like this is like your jam. Although he's like an orthopedic surgeon, so maybe he's not so much into the emergency thing because the orthopedics, I'm sure you can like plan out. I don't know. Is orthopedic surgery? I don't know. Leave us a comment on the video on YouTube. Like, is orthopedics ever an emergency surgery? Guess I should ask it. Okay, Mia says, this is another you one. Do printers have a vendetta against vets, or is it just us struggling here?
No, printers have a vendetta against everyone. Here's one important thing to keep in mind when you want to throw your printer out of a window. Printer companies are in the ink business, not the printer business.
Yes.
So printers, if you have that old Brother or HP printer from like 10 years ago in your clinic that's still running, or maybe it just died, do not expect your next printer to last 10 years. I would love to tell you that there's a brand out there that's going to make it and it's going to work and it's going to be your best friend. Honestly, we're looking at 2 to 4 years. HP runs closer on the 2 year side. So if it's an old printer, it was probably designed to start failing at some point. So keep that in mind. But they hate everyone.
That's funny. We were joking before we started the meeting. I'm like, you know what? We could probably just like recycle the same questions because so far it's like they're all very similar. Like everybody has the same problem.
If it makes you feel any better, I have a printer at my house that I keep unplugged and only plug it in when I absolutely have to use it because I hate printers personally as well.
Me too. Actually, like I just use my printer like anytime I have to ship something, right? Like if I have to return a piece of hardware or whatever, like that's when I use it. Okay, Mia. That was a great question. I love that one, Mia. I just loved the tone of that question.
Don't let them smell your fear.
Oh, Mia is a big winner. She wins the iPad this go around.
Go
Nice, Mia.
Mia.
What? All right.
Hopefully
Mia, I'm
it
gonna
makes
shoot you
up
an
for the printer
email
suffering.
after this, so it's not a scam. Get your iPad. We're gonna buy you one. We're gonna send it to you. Basically, just need to verify your hospital name and the address, and we'll get it shipped out directly from Apple, and you'll get a sweet new iPad. Way to go, Mia. Okay, Noah says, looking to move everything to the cloud. What is the best bang for our buck? Well, first off, if you're a Luca customer, if you go with Digitail or Shepherd, not Shepherd, Digitail or Vet Badger, you can get 20% off. We make no money from it. It's just because we have a good relationship with them, so you can save some money there. But otherwise, I would say one that like you can remove as many if you have as many third-party services like Pet Desk, Rapport, Ally DVM, PetsApp, whatever, like whatever those third-party ancillary services are, how many of those can you move in-house under one umbrella so you reduce that overall like overhead, like that overall monthly cost? That's probably the best way to go. I feel like it's such a competitive market in the cloud-based practice management system right now that EasyVet once for a while was charging like $30,000 to migrate. We heard from some hospitals like they were charging exorbitant fees to migrate, but ever since I'd actually purchased them, like sometimes they're waiving that, like there's no migration fees. Sometimes it's free. Sometimes it's a minimal cost, maybe a few $1,000s. But I feel like it's so competitive that everybody's really trying to just be the best on price. So yeah, my thought is to get rid of as many ancillary services as possible, try to get it under one umbrella, and then minimize those additional expenses.
Yep. And then also just looking at how they charge. I mean, the different versions for cloud practice management systems may not charge you a per user cost, but they charge more in merchant services. Some have the per user, but you can pick your merchant services. So if you've got a great merchant services deal, that you might be paying more per user, but you can keep your current merchant services. So none of them you're never comparing apples to apples, unfortunately. And so it's really going to be looking at what are your priorities, how are they charging you month to month, and what works best for your clinic.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and we are at the 30-minute mark. So Noah, you were the last question. So to the rest of you, sorry we didn't get to you. Submit a question for next month. You can register via the same link. You're just going to move to next month, roughly about the 15th of every month. We're a little late this month because things have gotten crazy. Like every hospital in the world needs technology help, but it's been a bit crazy right now. So get your question submitted. You can win an iPad. Like Mia, you could also win some Starbucks gift cards. Like there's some good stuff here. So make sure to get your questions submitted. Thanks for joining us. Logan, thank you as always for answering all the questions. I don't know anything else to add.
I think that's everything from my end.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.